My intro didn't play. We'll fix
Not
that.
at all.
There's no point having a replay if you don't having an intro if you don't play your intro.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we were the intro for the intro, and I'm okay with that.
I guess mix it up a little bit. I guess
it's a cold open.
It was a freezing cold open. Let's be honest. Downright frigid.
I'm thinking to myself, where the hell's my blue screen? And nothing happened. And then suddenly, being you're live. Son of
we're the only computer program that roots for the blue screen.
Right?
Yeah. Come on, blue screen.
Anyways, it's Friday night. It's 9:00 p.m. It's time for the What's on Joe Mind TeamStream.
Yeah.
Live in coast to coast. Yeah, we really are coast to coast tonight. So it's I'm your host, Mike Irizarry. Joining me, of course, here in the top row, former head of marketing for the G.I. Joe brand. It's the honcho, Mark Weber.
Hey, survived Newark, back in the cozy confines of Barrington, Rhode Island, and I'm just happy to be here.
Anybody, I'd be thrilled to get out of Newark.
Yeah, man.
It's perfect. So what were you doing in Newark, Mark?
We were visiting family. My brother lives down in North Plainfield, close enough. So we were seeing my brother last weekend, and my mom was visiting him firstborn and all, I guess. I don't know. So that was the handoff. That was we picked up grandma, brought her up here to Rhode Island. So
you have the immortal Nola Weber on premise.
Yeah. She's hanging out here for a couple weeks, watching her grandkids on their iPads. That's how we roll. But my mom's great. So it's always good to see my mom. So she's, this is her first visit. I went and saw her in Oregon in February, but this is her first visit out here since like November 2019 or something. So it's been a while. So always good to have moms in the house.
Good deal. And Joe Colton is off in Las Vegas at some Star Trek thing. My reaction, of course, is always, wait, they have a Star Trek now? I mean, nobody told me about this. So filling in live from Orange County, California.
Oh, yeah. Actually, yeah.
It's the one and only Biff McHonky Dunk, Phil Donnelly from the Articulated Point Squad.
Hey.
Is here.
Thanks for having me back.
And formerly, if not almost half, of the guts and brains and heart of yojo.com back when we liked yojo.com.
I don't find the gooey parts.
Yeah, that's fine. The middle of the Oreo, that's what everybody likes anyway. Come on.
Man, don't let Terry hear you running smack about him. Not calling him the cookie part of the Oreo.
Ain't nobody takes an Oreo and scrapes the filling out so they can have just cookie, right? Nobody does that. Oh?
I tend to go for the golden Oreos myself, so I kind of like the cookie part a little bit better on those.
Okay, it's defendable.
Weird,
but if you were saying I'm not having that filling, I'm full on 100% cookie guy, I'm going to call BS right there. But whatever.
Yeah, I'll separate them so that I have a cookie that I can have by itself. But then I've got cream side Oreo.
Yeah.
Well, which makes me happy.
You double that up and create a double stuff without paying for a double stuff.
Right.
That what they call that?
Giants one.
They call that economics. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't mix up the double stuff to regular cookie ratio, that's a gateway to diabetes right there. We don't need that.
Yeah. As our friend Wilford would tell you.
The beatus.
Diabetes.
Eventually it got him. So
only after he taunted He
But
taunted
not
it for
before you
like
escape Endor.
he taunted it like 20 years.
Right.
It's not bad.
If you're joining us live tonight, please be sure that you are subscribed. Give us a like on the bottom of the video. If you're watching us on Facebook, give us some kind of a reaction, whether it's a thumbs up or a heart or that little hug guy. We'll take them all. That lets Facebook know that you're listening, and we're sure as heck happy to have you. If you're watching us on the delay on recording, we're still happy to have you too.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You
funny.
count.
We are just as happy. But please make sure you're doing the same. You guys are great for the most part about subscribing. If you're watching us, there is a better than 85% chance that you're subscribed to the channel. That's kind of nuts. Like, we have a retention rate that makes much larger channels swoon. So all that's left now is to help make us a much bigger channel. So share us wherever you can in your GI Joe circles. It means a lot more coming from you than it does from us.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to, if they find the creator out spreading links, they tend to tamp that down. But if somebody else does it,
Mm-hmm.
they want to promote that. So please get out there, share our videos, like our channel, give our videos a little thumbs up at the bottom, and do all those happy YouTube and Facebook things to help us continue to expand and get our tendrils into each corner of the hobby.
Now we're talking.
Our evil tendrils.
Help us advance our evil scheme to take it all over, every bit.
Right. I got a guy who can run a brand.
I can make a crappy movie.
Come on now. We can all make a crappy movie. We do it every Friday.
Hey!
Oh.
Hey!
We'll do it live. I'll write it. We'll do it live.
Phil, get your Snake Eyes helmet.
Right.
You're going to be a star. He's got one.
That's all I got.
It's a start, man.
Phil.
It's a start. We'll zoom in.
I guess.
We'll fix it in post.
We'll blue screen it.
Mark, you could be the voice of Beachhead.
That's fine. Like, you just need to dupe me, 26 times? When the Beachhead platoon arrives in the part that you wrote?
Right now, it's 23.
All right.
23.
Coming soon. Spoiler. That's a preview. Speaking of,
we already have audio of you playing Beachhead pretty well. So
right? Yeah, I think I got that one locked down. Speaking of, save me some room in the what we got in, because I made up for the last month. It was a good week in the Weber house.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't exactly put time limits on these things. So
well, I'm just saying.
Lord knows
if you allocated X amount of time, I might take everybody's time. It was a good week.
I'll take my time too.
I'm taking it. I'll take whatever I want.
He's had enough.
Right. It was cold. It was a cold July, but August is pretty damn good. So
Weber can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, to all you other eBay guys who wanted the cool stuff this week, I'm not sorry at all.
I mean, Dave Tree has all the cool stuff.
That's true, but it's all in UK. I'm not paying that shipping.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I can't find your audio, Mark. I'm looking for it, but
Oh, it's good.
oh, here it is.
Okay, here we go. No, that's not it.
I'm a rough and tough ranger from Alabama, and I don't take no guff. And my crotch just
I couldn't stick the landing. It's almost perfect. It's that 1 foot out of bounds on the floor routine.
It's pretty perfect, man. I wouldn't beat yourself up too much on that one.
And my crotch just broke.
It was a beautiful moment from early in the Honcho's run on our show.
Definitely still my highlight. Probably never top that.
Well, I mean, there is the stories with Tim Roberts. So
those are good. And the day I took my kids to the pool and they played monkey in the middle and I just hit on the side because it was the only shade. Because I'm not built for that, man.
No. Those kids obviously want you dead for some reason. You need to retrace your steps.
I'm like, I'll play, but I'm never going in the middle. No way. No way.
Trying to do something to get you out in the sunlight where you will immolate.
Right. Poof, just like that.
You let them know what's in the will, didn't you? That was your first mistake.
Right. That was it. I'm like, Derek, what are you reading? You're a little young to be reading my will and testament.
Just a big tome, like out of a Harry Potter movie.
Yeah, because I'm leaving all my GI Joes to different people.
There we go.
It's enumerated, isn't it?
Mike gets my beachheads, and Philip gets my Major Blood with a broken crotch from China.
Getting a serious deja vu here.
Right? Yeah. He's Australian, right? It's a boomerang.
Oh no!
Coming right back. Coming right back to you, Phil.
I hope if you throw that, it would come back to you. I'd hate to be without it.
Yeah,
anyways,
it's a good point.
Before this degenerates even further, we did have some news this week. We'll start with that. Let me go ahead and fire up the old news machine here.
Do.
That wasn't it, but that was
all,
good that you're.
That's in Klingon.
Yeah, I mean, good that you're on top of that, man.
Yeah.
Gotta sound angry.
Yeah. Depends on the news, doesn't it?
Anyways, first news item.
Do.
And it comes from our friends at histank.com. They had somebody over at TFW get into the target systems and find Hasbro code names for upcoming classified figures. And obviously we don't know who they are. We have some guesses on names that we've seen in previous listings for the retro line. But we don't have a hard lock on what these names really mean. You can see Jupiter there as a possible Storm Shadow because we've seen that before. Zenith as a possible Stalker because we've seen that before. Meteor, Cobra Trooper, we've seen that before. Again, we don't know when these are expected. We don't know anything about them past that they're in the system and there's something coming. Hasbro does tend to keep those fake code names consistent across the brand, so those guesses are probably pretty solid. We are actually working on a lead connecting to this news, so stay with us. We may have something hopefully soon that can get some light on this. You remember we had some success prognosticating in recent times with the retro line, and so we're working that contact again, and maybe we'll get something out of them. I don't know.
So if you'd like to rip that news from us and not credit us, stay tuned.
Right.
My time has come.
What's important is you're not bitter.
And I almost forgot about it. By the way, do we have any idea what CS theme means? Am I just blanking on that? Or
CS is classified series, is my guess.
Well, they're all classified. Oh, not movie meaning?
No, I'm going to guess that the CS theme figure is a Target exclusive of some kind. That would be my guess.
Fair enough. I'm looking forward to that Centauri figure.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just worried about getting 3 of that 5th one.
As I've said for a long time, what this line was really needed is a Gamma.
Right.
This line
one of these
Gamma.
One of these has to be the Alley Viper, right?
You would think.
He's on the initial artwork, and we've heard no whisper of him at all.
No, nothing. No, nothing.
And he's not the first troop builder I'd make. He's 10th or 12th probably, but still nothing wrong. Ain't nothing.
Yeah, bottom end to top 10 at best.
Yeah, there ain't nothing wrong with an Alley Viper, and people were actually kind of jazzed that it seemed like not bad, but a little surprising pick, right? And now we're all, what the hell's the Alley Viper?
Kind of like somebody must have been a Spy Troops fan, right?
I guess.
We got all those Viper and Alley Viper 2-packs back then.
Yeah, but the Alley Viper was, orange and blue on the packaging, so it couldn't have been from that era.
That's
right.
True.
Everything but the classic colors.
Anywho, that's that for that. So stay with us, and hopefully we'll have some news on this coming soon. Next news item.
Do.
It's more from our friend Snake Eyes as we look at last week's box office results ending August 8th. Winning the box office last week was DC's new movie, The Suicide Squad, with $26.2 million. Holding strong in the second spot was Jungle Cruise in its second week, $15.8 million. Third place was Old, which is kind of shocking that Old had this kind of staying power. Third week, $4.1 million. Fourth place, Black Widow in its fifth week with 3.9. Again, holding pretty good considering the market. It's hanging on to its business, which is good for that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5 was Stillwater in its second week, 2.8. Number 6, The Green Knight tumbled down to $2.6 million in its second week. Number 7, Space Jam 2, fourth week, $2.4 million. And just in case you haven't fallen asleep by this point, there we are in 8th place.
Hey.
Snake Eyes in its third week with $1.7 million. So suffice to say, if you have plans on seeing Snake Eyes in the theater, this might be your weekend. Probably next weekend will still be okay for you. If you don't mind going to the one theater that's in the back of the building that has like 10 seats in it.
And a 10 o'clock show. That's it.
Yeah, you get that noon show. But yeah, it's there's just no way around it. This is just not a box office hit in the States. I'm hoping that overseas sales do something to lift the profile for G.I. Joe. I mean, Lord knows, Snake Eyes, I don't want to go into spoilers. I want to keep as much of our content spoiler free as possible. So I don't want to talk about the movie itself. We did our review last week, and we were not necessarily kind to it. I think we did a good job of picking out the good parts, and we really hammered on the bad parts. But Lord knows, I would still say that Snake Eyes is better than any Transformer movie. And those movies, gangbuster.
First Transformer movie was pretty good.
Nah, I disagree.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Except for Optimus Prime, I couldn't tell who was who at any point.
First one was pretty good.
I disagree. You know what? I'll take Bumblebee out. Bumblebee was better than better than Snake Eyes.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not going to fight for 2, 3, 4, or 5, but
no.
The first Transformer movie was pretty solid, even for a Bay film.
It was easy to tell who was Jazz. He was one in two pieces at the end.
Right.
He was the guy getting ripped in two.
That's
and
Jazz. That's
pretty
the other
much,
Jazz.
Pretty much not mourned after his death. Oh, yeah, Jazz is dead.
Man.
That guy we flew across the galaxy with, he's gone. Oh, well.
And they learned from that. Paramount learned from that too, man, because they didn't kill anybody. Oh, and never mind.
Yeah.
We're avoiding the spoilers. Sorry about that.
I think we can give Transformers 2 spoilers.
Right.
Okay.
There's got to be a statute of limitations on these things.
Right. Hey, man, if we spoil it for somebody and they don't see it, we're helping them out.
Right.
Right.
Especially with Transformers 2.
Jetfire's old and he farts a parachute. It's great.
I mean, I'll be honest, guys. And Phil, you can back me up on this. As a single man, I hope someday to find a woman who loves me like Transformers fans love bad movies.
That's a really love-hate relationship there. There's something dysfunctional in that relationship.
I think what we're looking at here, though, in fair, to really be fair to the Snake Eyes movie, and I'm not being coy here, look at how depressed the overall box office is, right? Suicide Squad, I mean, it is what it is. It's not something I'm excited about, but it's exactly what you would want it to be if you're a Suicide Squad fan. And there ain't not much else out there, and there ain't much going on other than Yankees and White Sox walking out of the cornfield.
That was pretty
cool. It was, but 26 million for the first week.
Yeah.
This is a highly depressed box office. So I think Snake Eyes, I'm not saying give it a pass for the quality of the film, but the move up obviously didn't do it much good given the rise in people's concern about the pandemic, expansion and stuff like that. So it got hurt by a lot of things that weren't necessarily Hasbro's fault or the film itself's fault.
Yeah. I mean, the numbers, the actual gate you got to take with a grain of salt. I think the troubling part for Snake Eyes has been where it's placed on these lists the 3 weeks that we've done this, right? Like it opened in second place behind an M. Night Shyamalan movie that had no marketing for it in comparison to Snake Eyes, right?
Right. And no stars. Not
Nope.
like, well, it's Clive Owen, I'll go see it.
And then in its second week, it lost 70% of its business and fell to 6th place. And then in its third week, it lost another 70% of its business and fell to 8th place. Like that trend is the troubling one for Snake Eyes at the box office.
Yeah.
Not so much the raw dollars.
Yeah. Is Stillwater the sequel to Almost Famous?
No.
Okay, just checking.
It's kind of based off of the Amanda Knox thing.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the Matt Damon redneck movie.
Wasn't that the band in Almost Famous? Were they Stillwater?
Wasn't that the band in Almost Famous was the Matt Damon redneck experience?
No. I thought the band was named Stillwater.
I don't know.
In Almost Famous. Okay, just saying.
I feel like I've missed out in that's the one good Kate Hudson movie, but
Pretty much.
But it's yeah.
Did you see the picture this week? Did you see the picture this week of LeBron James with his Space Jam 2 stunt double?
I did, yes.
And people saying, "Wow, LeBron, talk about how NBA players are soft. He needs a stunt double to face animated characters." Man,
Poor guy.
LeBron just can't stay away from the haters.
Poor guy. So, anyways, unfortunately, Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins gets a new explosion this week. And it's Cobra Commander this time.
It's funny because they used to put the G.I. Joe figure in front of the explosion.
Right now, he's just responsible for it.
But not anymore.
He's just responsible. I live for doing that these last 2 weeks.
It's nice to see Cobra Commander.
It is a fantastic picture, by the way.
Right?
It is. That's the one that Phil took for 3D Joe's. So that's why I'm impressed that you recognized it that quickly.
Oh, I always recognize it when it shows up.
Phil knows his work.
Everybody steals it. Is that why?
The Smithsonian Magazine, a guy who was making enamel pins, just redrawing the art.
Well, I guess it's in its own way. That's flattery, right?
Yeah.
In a theft sort of way, yeah. Like, hey, nice house. Can I take your TV?
Oh goodness. So that's that on Snake Eyes. Next news item.
Do.
Hey, we're back in the Kickstarter roundup, and Marauder Task Force Vietnam is still rolling on, and it is funded. The campaign ends tomorrow. You pretty well have all day tomorrow until 11:30 at night. This set out at the beginning. It had a. Let's see. Let me pull up the figures here. Had a goal of $64,000. Currently, it is at $421,597. And
They got a little bit of a buffer.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
I think we're in on this one. They have unlocked 22 stretch goals.
Dude.
So yeah, this is one. If you're collecting Marauder, I know a lot of us are. Feel safe about this one because they've touched a lot. These stretch goals have unlocked stuff for World War II, for their modern line, for all of the other lines that they've started in the last 7-8 years. So it's really great to see them continuing to succeed, continuing to build their fan base, and continuing to take care of their older collectors, because we're at a point now where, if you've been with Marauder since the beginning, you've been with them a pretty long time.
Osteoporosis is setting in.
Right?
I hope they
posing dudes with little guns.
I hope they have enough time to actually make the figures now that I'm going to have them managing my 401k and investment portfolio. Because, dude,
Right.
like Do you ever remember any Joe or even toy related Kickstarter that exploded with such massive appeal like this?
Um,
Not many, a couple maybe, but
I mean, these guys, they funded after an hour.
that's
I don't
incredible.
think even Unicron was this successful.
Yeah, they funded after an hour. I remember we were on the air. We were recording with the folks from Boss Fight on the last day of their first Kickstarter, and we watched that one explode while we were talking to them over that 2.5 hours or so. And that was like, I thought that was a pretty uncanny experience, but it's not the same as seeing it happen in the first couple hours.
Right.
Kickstarter. I mean,
And that it disproves the long held belief that it was the appearance on What's on Joe Mind that fueled all of that Boss Fight Kickstarter jump at the end. Because we didn't have the Marauder guys on,
we
for 2 weeks straight.
We did actually, way back for their first couple, we did have them. So we like to say that Marauder got the old What's on Joe Mind push the first couple times.
But now they don't need us. They're just too busy, lighting their cigars with $1,000 bills.
Right? I mean, they got toys to make. They're too busy to be on talk shows.
Wearing monocles and top hats and
Absolutely earned. Cannot speak highly enough of the quality. Cannot speak highly enough of the customer service. If you're dealing with them over the mail, if you're dealing with them at a show, those guys are the best. Can't say enough. If you're on the fence, God knows, I can't imagine anybody being on the fence at this point. But get off of the fence and you're going to be in good hands booking Marauder Task Force.
Yeah, they can probably make till August 14th. They could probably make up 5 or 6 more stretch goals that get hit by then.
I mean, I would think legit 2 or 3, because you know how things tend to explode in the last day.
Oh yeah.
Like we will be touching base with this one next week, just because I want to see what figure they stop at.
Right. It's probably the one they don't get is like the one-legged eye-patched bazooka trooper. Just didn't quite fund. Just because they didn't have enough time, right? Right.
Didn't quite get to $1.8 million.
Right. They're just shy of making their Herbert Hoover Memorial Vietnam figure. And I'm being coy. I got nothing but love and respect. They're killing it. So good for them.
And along those lines, the Strike Force Alpha Kickstarter came to a close last week, just after our show last week. They were already funded going into that, but they did finish to a $77,000 goal with $116,067. So, round of applause for Strike.
Absolutely. And if you didn't get in, they are listed on Big Bad Toy Store now. So if you missed it somehow because you weren't listening to us, because we've been telling you how cool it is, there's still a chance to get in on some of those things through Big Bad.
There you go. Honcho with the catch there.
Yeah, it's good. That's actually where I wasn't, because funds were a little tight at the time, but not so tight at the moment. And so I was a little late, but I got in through Big Bad. So I got a couple of these coming that I'm excited about.
All right. And that's the news.
Man. Are we getting better at this, or was there just less news this
There just
week?
wasn't a lot of news.
Okay. Surely somebody's making a pin out there somewhere.
You're not going to, there are, but we talked about them once. I don't feel the need to talk about a pin set again.
Come get your monkey wrench pin.
Right? Whatever. We sent everybody to Icon Heroes once. The fact that the stuff that we said was going to be available is now available is not necessarily news.
That's true.
It's like we already told you.
And we just told you again.
That's it. So there's your plug.
So where's my end of news sound effects?
I'm just still stunned that we're done with the news, so we're just gonna go boop.
All right. Good enough. And so that brings us to our next segment here. It's what everybody's tuned in for. It's fantasy booking.
Yeah.
This is where we take real-ish situations and try to book. Oh, we did miss something. No matter
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Operation Armor happening tomorrow at 9 a.m. So there you go. head over to their website, or it's codenameiowa.com. You can find them on Facebook or on the website, and check out their calendar of events. I got pushed back a week because of some technical stuff. So thank you. Totally missed that. I had that written down on a piece of paper, and I lost that piece of paper.
Man.
So Nomad's Wandering, unofficial fourth guy on today's TeamStream.
He's Lex.
Sure.
Because we still got Ole.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
We don't want to throw Paul Roma on him. So
No, we don't want to go Roma on him. That's rough.
And no offense to Roma Collectibles there, but anyways.
Yeah.
So it brings us to our fantasy booking segment. Good catch, Nomad's Wandering.
Yeah.
My Iowa YouTube channel. We'll leave that up there for a sec. So, anyways, we did fantasy booking once before. It was more about the retro line. This time we're going to take a look at classified. And let me just get back to the PowerPoint here. So our What's on Joe Mind fantasy booking scenario, because we do love our wrestling so much, that we're going to incorporate fantasy booking into our own hobby. With the U.S. box office failure of Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins, Hasbro pulls the plug on the G.I. Joe toy line with the overarching idea of rebooting down the road. The higher-ups decide that the Walmart exclusive retro line is finished after Wave 5, which is Stalker, Grunt, etc. But there's enough interest to complete one last 5-figure wave for classified. If tooling and other costs are no object, what 5 figures should be included in this last wave? Okay, and we do have some rules. First one, there has to be at least one named G.I. Joe character. So we can't go all Cobra. 2, there has to be at least one named Cobra, so we can't go all Joe. And the third and final rule is only one army builder. So we cannot just load up on army builders. But, yeah. So.
And rule number 4 from Mike, no Mercer.
If you want to do Mercer, I'll mock you, but you're
you can make a Cobra Mercer and a Joe Mercer. It'll be 2
Right?
Mercers in one.
So good. The third one with a Winter Soldier arm.
Yeah, I'm still in the director's chair, so I'll just kick whoever it is off the show. I'll just boop.
Man.
Anyway,
it's good to know that censorship is alive and well.
2 Mercers. I mean,
on
come
the
on.
TeamStream.
That's not so much censorship as preventing nausea. So we'll start with our guest, Phil Donnelly, better known as Biff McHonky Donk. And Phil, the ones that you gave us back when this was assigned to you a few days ago, your first selection was Hawk in his 1986 look.
Oh, yeah.
Then was Doc, Cover Girl. So Gary Godso already has a bone to pick.
Right? I just heard him yell.
Yeah. Not even over a microphone. You just stuck your head out the window.
Out the window. In California, I can hear him.
Then we have Serpentor for a named Cobra and a Cobra Eel as army builder. And so we'll get our little picture of Serpentor up there.
That's a great picture. Who took that?
Who indeed?
That image is, you'll notice that image is I got a source on there for that one. So
fair enough.
3D.
Can I interrupt here just because it's photo appropriate?
Yes.
Am I the only kid, and this was as a kid, who took off Serpentor's flimsy ass green metallic cape and replaced it with Mindbender's badass black Cobra cape?
Yes, but that's not a bad idea.
It was so much better. So much better.
That's not terrible. I'll give you that one.
I'm just throwing that out there.
If I had a Serpentor as a kid, I probably would have given him a superpowers cape because those were the best.
Not a bad idea. I remember I had the overcoat. It was thick plastic that came with tote from the Raiders of the Lost Ark line. Nobody bought that figure. right? But the overcoat was great. It fit over his shoulders and all around him. And that would be my secret agent, Joe, right? Whenever somebody was going to be a secret agent, I'd throw Tote's coat on him and off he went. It looked ridiculous. It was like Flash walking around with an overcoat on. Like nobody could know. Who's that guy?
That
Wearing
was and they're all
like Raphael in disguise.
too tall for it.
right. It was like Silver Pads Grand Slam sneaking into the Cobra base just because you got the overcoat on. Totally worked.
I mean, it worked for the Autobots.
Yeah. I think I was ahead of myself. I treated it like the Harry Potter cloak of invisibility, right? Just throw it on him and off you go.
If you want to play along, by all means, you had the rules presented to you. Throw that in the comment section down below. We might look at a couple over in the live comment section.
Yeah.
But by all means, throw it down there so where it can be seen for posterity.
Forever. Yeah. And if it's really good or really bad, we might put it on screen. If it's in the middle, no. You want to go A or F here, right? Don't be in the middle.
But so Phil, defend your picks.
All right. So 1986 Hawk is my favorite figure from the whole vintage line. It's one I've had like almost as long as I have memory. It's the one I thought was always the coolest looking figure. And since I didn't have the original Hawk figure, I didn't know he was supposed to be blonde. So I liked that he had, same color hair I did. And so, yeah, if we're going to do a bomber jacket camo pants combination, I would love to see that translated into a modern classified figure, because that's the Hawk I always have in my brain, is that version. And I would love to see that in a 6-inch and give us a proper leader for the Joes. I'm not anti Joe Colton, but it's Hawk for me.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
We try to have nothing to do with Joe Colton on this show.
Right. And so lately we've been winning. And I like my Hawk was always blonde too, because my first one was always blonde, and that's the way it was in the comic. But once Duke came around, having Hawk have some brown hair gave some better separation between those two guys. So, and I was always a Hawk guy, not a Duke guy. So
I was always disappointed that they didn't on the cartoon, they didn't give Hawk the Reed Richards gray temples. Mm. I was like, oh man, that's an action hero look if there ever was one.
Yeah, they never pulled that off in animation very good though, right? Like even Reed Richards looked like Pepe Le Pew kind of, right?
Didn't work for Nick Fury either, or David Hasselhoff.
That's a good point.
Goodness.
So moving on. I picked Doc. I figured our line, we were getting specialists, we're getting barbecue, we're getting breaker, so we're getting communications, we're getting firefighter. We need a medic of some kind. And to me, I think Doc's just a little bit more classic than Lifeline. And, he comes with the stretcher. He's got, a nice tan uniform, which you haven't seen a whole lot of in the classified line so far. So it's another little color break going on. And just all around something very useful in a military unit that I wanted to see.
Okay, then we got Cover Girl. So explain why you wanted Gary mad at you.
Because the line needs more women. That's what it basically comes down to it. And it was Cover Girl, Zorana, or Jinx. And at this point, I think it's just going to be Cover Girl, just because we've already gotten Baroness Scarlet and Lady J, and in the hierarchy of Joe women, I think Cover Girl comes next. And again, leather jackets. Why not?
Okay, so you got, for your name Cobra, you've got Serpentor.
This was a toss-up between Dr. Mindbender and Serpentor, because I'm thinking of all the biggest named Cobras. And, we could do Scrap Iron, but to me, the ones that haven't been done, I think Mindbender and Serpentor are bigger names than Scrap Iron is. And if we're only going to do one, we can't do Tomax and Zaymot. Mm-hmm. So I ultimately chose...
You weren't limited to one. You had to have at least one.
Yeah, but, I mean, if we're going to do all new tooling, let's not do mirrored tooling. Let's get them out as unique as they can be. And so Serpentor won out because I thought, we could go the deluxe route and give him an air chariot, which, Mindbender doesn't have a dedicated vehicle to him. And so that'd be a real way to go out with a bang.
Mm-hmm. I love that idea, and I think they're going to get there. That's not any inside info or anything, but there's so few of the smallish vehicles that are absolutely resonant. And yeah, Serpentor with the chariot for $40-$50. Yeah, I totally see that. Absolutely.
It's a dopey vehicle, but it is pretty iconic. And
yeah.
It's a dopey costume. It it synergizes well.
Yeah.
And then, so lastly, for my troop builder, I went with eels, primarily because we were getting a lot of land troopers. We got both the Cobra Trooper and the Viper, which really perform the same function. So if we're covering land, then we need to cover water. And you don't have more iconic aquatic troops than the eels. Though I would not be mad if they incorporated some designs from the Demon of the Deep, as it were.
The Hydro Viper?
Yeah, the Hydro Viper. Some of those design elements incorporated into an eel's costume, maybe just a callback, even if we're not going to get a Hydro Viper. I wouldn't be mad at that.
I think it's funny, as classic as the eels are, the eels look isn't as popular as it is. The Hydro Viper is really popular in the community. So I think you could hybridize the look of the two without, fully infuriating the Joe collectors who tend to like things the way they were, right?
Yeah.
I'll give the eels a lot of credit. I think that was the best diving figure they ever did in the retro line.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to the torpedo and wetsuit fans out there, but those guys lost a little bit by not being able to, not having a removable helmet, not having a face, whereas the eels didn't. So, anyways, so for step 2, I am putting myself in second. We'll get Mark last because he's a professional. I also started with Hawk for much of the same reasons as Phil, although he's not my favorite. He's important and he's missing to this point. Mm-hmm. Probably the most important Joe to this point, like just in terms of storytelling across the various realities that we've been exposed to. Stalker is my second one, and he was pretty inflexible too. He's, if not the most important, he's certainly second behind Hawk. So now here's the spot that I tossed around. I had this graphic made up with about 5 different characters, but ultimately I could not shake for my second favorite guy of all time. I got to get Flash. I have to. It's no reason there. He's not more important than anybody. Well, he's more important than like Short Fuse, but he's more important than junk like Mercer. But
is he more important than Sci-Fi?
I would say so, simply because Flash was such a big part of the early merchandising of this line. Flash was a big part of the aesthetic, so I think he's got a more important role than just his story role. Mm-hmm. And then for Named Cobra, Storm Shadow is probably the most important character, full stop, that we haven't seen yet. So he's got to be in there. And then my army builder was the Bat, and I threw a picture of Flash on there because I figured that would be the one you guys harped on the most.
No, the picture's so good I can't even be mad.
But yeah, tossed that number 3 spot. I tossed that around. I for a while I was going with 2 Cobras. I was thinking Scrap Iron. I was thinking Mindbender. I was thinking Zorana. And then it was, I don't know. Could get Footloose, could get Grunt, could get like you guys are saying with Specialists, we could get a wetsuit in there. And then it was just like, you know what? If it was going away, I'd have to get my guy in there.
Yeah. Well, and as long as that vest is a secondary piece that goes over the brutal chest cut I hate, I think he'd look sensational on the peg.
Yeah, I think it would work pretty well.
If that was molded on and they put the cut through it, that figure would be absolute garbage.
It would be pretty trash. Yeah.
So
I would
bad,
love to see what Nerf gun they would use to make the laser rifle.
right? Well, and Mike, you're the Flash honk here, right? If
Sure.
they totally altered the laser rifle, you know, would you be, as long as it looked good, would you be okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally, because I think Flash is the outfit and the visor. As
Right.
long as the laser gun looks good, cool.
Look, the gun as it looks on the toy is one thing. It always had a different look in the comic book at any given time. On the old Sunbow cartoon, obviously he didn't even have it at all because everybody had a laser rifle. So
Wait, did he have it in the intro?
Version
Though?
3 laser rifle.
he had it in the intro, but that was it.
Yeah.
The only other
I think
time
he had it in the intro because that was cut from the commercial cartoon from '82.
exactly.
There you go.
Look at it. Flash doesn't look anything like he looked in the rest of the show. He looked like he did in the figure in that one shot.
Right.
Because it was from a comic book #1 commercial. So it's Phil is spot on there with the catch. So believe me, I tossed that one around a lot, and I just could not walk away from Flash. Storm Shadow, I don't know how we haven't seen him yet, but I guess it's really the faith I have in them thinking this line is a hit is that they haven't forced Storm Shadow out already, because they must have a good feeling about him coming to us later.
I think they were keeping him away from the movie version, right? I think that's been the delay on a classic version 1 Storm Shadow.
Yeah, and then bats were just so ubiquitous with the old Sunbow show. Like that's really where the bat shone, and like that's just seeing scores of them getting blown up every week was you know, left an impression on a lot of fans. So I think bats are pretty iconic. And so that brings us to the third member of today's panel. That's the honcho. Mark
Yeah.
Webb.
And it's like I cribbed your guys' test pages.
Right. First spot, you've got Hawk.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, how about that?
Clean sweep for the
Yep.
boss.
Consistency there for our general.
Yep.
Then we got Snow Job.
Mhm.
And then we got Torpedo. And then for the Cobra, you have Storm Shadow.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Bats for your army builder. And there's Snow Job. And he
And
is
look,
approved.
he's not yellow. You're not yellow at all, right? Like that's a good looking snow job there. The one thing here that gave me some pause, and they actually think about this when they're putting it together, even though I don't think any of us have ever seen the entire line on the peg at once. That's one of the things we would think about when we were doing, especially like Transformer lines too. Like even when we put out the first line of Combiner Wars, they didn't want 4 aerial bots, 4 deluxe jets, Autobot heroes on the peg at the same time. So they put in one of the Stunticons. So you had a bad guy and you had a car. And then in the next line, you had 3 cars and an aerial bot. And so the one part of this line that's a little hinky is having a really white colored Snow Job figure and a super white colored Storm Shadow on the peg at the same time. So if there were more lines to come, I would separate these 2 guys.
Yeah.
But gotta have a snow guy and some skis. And even though I really, really liked Blizzard, Snow Job was the guy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
As much as we would ride, you know, Gary if he was here and talk up Blizzard, Snow Job's the guy.
Snow Job's the guy. And I was just thinking about, you know, the hierarchy of Cobra. And the only A-list guy they haven't done, other than Serpentor is an A-list guy, but you can make the Cobra hierarchy without him and pretend it's just pre-Serpentor. But it's Storm Shadow. And you see how people are desperately trying to make this, and some of them are really good, to build this out of other lines. The appetite is absolutely there. And I actually think Hasbro has done the right thing here, because assuming that the goal of the Snake Eyes movie was to appeal to a new generation of Joe fans, I wouldn't want to tease a blatantly Cobra version of Storm Shadow before the movie came out. And I wouldn't want to go for Storm Shadow Overload or to have people go, well, I don't need the movie one because I have a better one already. So I absolutely see why they haven't done it yet. But if the line was coming to an end, you can't do 5 lines of classified and not get to version 1 Storm Shadow. So he's in. The same way that Phil talked about wanting the water guy, that's why Torpedo's in there. And you could talk me into Wetsuit. He's a little more visually interesting color-wise. So you could get me either way on that. But I want a guy, a water specialist, a diver. So Torpedo makes that for me. And then the bats are in, even though I think the Super 7 bats are pretty damn impressive, and being an extra inch tall, I think won't hurt the bat character because you can pass them off as gigantic if you want. So I think they'll sell a ton of bats. But really, for the Troop Builder, I think there's only 2. Eels are close, but I think the 2 just can't miss guys are Crimson Guard and bats. And I just thought the chest cut is going to look just like Cobra Commander's does in this line, right across that pleated vest, and it's going to look god awful. And with the bat, they can hide that cut. So that's what pushed me over to bats from Crimson Guardsman.
When I was talking about this with Racktime Rob last night, his choice for the Troop Builder was a Crimson Guard.
Yeah, and he looked great. He looked great on the peg, and he wouldn't look like anybody else. That bright red, pop like crazy, cool looking guy. That chest cut will ruin that figure. There's almost no way, because there's no secondary to put over it. It's just going to be right there in the middle of a very classy looking dress uniform. Right? Ugh.
Yeah.
It'd be like Dress Blues Gung Ho as a classified figure, right? Unless they did the jacket over it. It would look god awful. So that's what keeps me away from the Crimson Guard. And you can see there aren't maybe it's a hard custom to do, but given that Cobra Commander gives you a usable torso, it's surprising we haven't seen more custom Crimson Guards out there. And I'm going to say that's because people are coming around and they're not going to support that brutal chest cut.
I think it's just more that people can't find a good head.
It could be. Oh, come on. Who's the Sith Lord? Darth Revan, right? Doesn't he have pretty much exactly a Crimson Guard face?
I guess you could make it work, but that's also a GameStop exclusive.
Well, at least it's not a Target exclusive. You have a shot at it. Hey!
Ooh,
See what I did there? I haven't forgot about you, Target. Haven't forgot about you, Target. Swing that pinata again, Mike. I'll give it a whack.
Man, look, somebody gets the Gary Godso seal of approval. And look what happened.
It's kind of rare.
He's going
I think my favorite part of this exercise is that we all absolutely are in lockstep agreement on Hawk.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Need to see that.
Just too important. Just too important. We're all comic book guys, I think. It's part of it. But to ignore Hawk's, the contribution that they've made with that character and in various animated forms too.
And the look of it too, right? There hasn't been another classified figure that looks anything like that, with the bomber jacket and the cool helmet and the goggles. And,
we got Racktime Rob's 5 down there. He's got Hawk, Stalker, Storm Shadow, Crimson Guard, and Dr. Mindbender.
He's 40% right. Hey,
just 40.
Although you would not break my heart with a Stalker figure. Stalker's a great figure.
Yeah. Again, it's after Hawk. He's the most important Joe that hasn't been done.
Yeah.
And even then, it's arguable. Like if you wanted to come to me and say Stalker's the number 1 guy that hasn't been done, I'm going to let you have that argument without. But yeah, Matt Rubin is surprised that nobody picked Mindbender. You know what? He was in there, but man, that 84 Storm Shadow's not there, and Serpentor is a really powerful visual. So I get why Phil picked him. he's high up there. I almost did. It just
If we had one more wave.
Yeah, that Mindbender design has not aged well, and it's 6 inches with that cut right above his, I'm sure, washboard abs.
no, but he's one that I'm pretty sure you could, if you went with the more modern lab coat Valor versus Venom Mindbender as your design, I think people be on board for that one.
But then he's a science teacher, right?
I wouldn't hate the Battle Core version as an update. I love that little cybernetic monocle thing he had going.
I liked that update, but I don't. It would be a long time before I thought a version of Mindbender would be better than a different Cobra option. The character is more the idea of the character is more beloved than the actual visual. Look at that! What'd you do?
I just closed the PowerPoint.
Yeah, but like diagonally, that was awesome.
Well, it shrunk away like an 80s video toaster effect.
It's amazing.
It was.
I'm gonna treat you better, Mike, because I don't want you to do that to me.
That screen ducked down, and then the Great Space Coaster was going to fly back out. So
that's the only way you could ever fit my head into those one size fits all hats. So
just shrink it.
Just squeeze me in.
So I'm going through. I'm going to see if I can pull out some lists from our live chat here.
I would like to say I didn't pick Storm Shadow because I'm actually a little bit younger, and so my first Storm Shadow figure was actually the Ninja Force.
He's out. He's bragging about his youth. He's out.
Kids these days got no respect.
He's done here.
Yeah. Yeah. Generation Z. He's tired. You know what? He's just as tired as us because of the attention span of kids these days, right?
Right.
He's like, "Where's my meme?"
We've made him sit still for an hour. He can't handle it.
Hey, where's my meme?
Get out of here.
Right? You guys are not poggers. That's what the kids say these days.
So
the classified Storm Shadow we've already got. It works for me. So.
Doug Gallo's got General Hawk, Eels, Scrap Iron, Buzzer, and Footloose.
See, I'm gonna pull the card on Buzzer. Right?
Yeah,
you can't do Buzzer. Can't open that can without at least committing to the other two. Right? If you did Buzzer, Torch, Ripper, and no more, okay. But that's like making Starscream and not doing Thundercracker and Skywarp, right? Or doing Mercer and not doing Red Dog and Taurus, right? It's a crew. You can't open that can. It's like doing Tomax and not Zaymot. You can't do that.
I would do Red Dog and Taurus and not do Mercer.
Because everybody wants the circus acrobat.
Yeah.
You will admit, even though you hate him, Mercer's the most popular of those three by a million miles.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not a question of character design. He's not a bad looking figure. He's easily the best of those three figure wise. I just don't think the character just doesn't hit a note for me.
That's fair. All right, I'll give you that.
Especially since the other two characters' design looks like it fit better with the Dreadnoks.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Like Red Dog, I could kind of see. Taurus is totally Dreadnought. But yeah, like Mercer's the only one that looks like he belongs in a military outfit.
Well, and those two are from like Istanbul and Pogo Pogo or Samoa, right? Like a place you might think the Dreadnoks might stop by and recruit. Like, hey, come on down.
I thought Red Dog had the best backstory. He was a former barefoot kicker in the NFL, and somebody drove their cleat into his toe, and he got suspended for beating a guy up.
Right.
So, I like that.
Little known fact about Red Dog, or maybe it's better known than I'm giving it credit for. The modern version of Red Dog that was released, the head is based off the current designer Lenny Panzica.
Oh, there you go.
Of the classified line. So if you're a big fan of Lenny, I'm a big fan of Lenny. He's a great guy, one of my best friends there. Yeah, get that Red Dog figure. Maybe he'll sign it if you're nice.
If you're a big fan of Lenny and headbands.
Yeah, get Lenny to sign.
Didn't they reuse that head in one of the Jurassic Park lines?
Maybe, yeah. Get Lenny to sign it and then send the Mercers to Mike.
So anyways, moving on, because we're talking about a guy who's not going to be in any of these lists.
Yeah.
Tony Rodriguez has Dusty, Eel, Televiper, Shipwreck, and Grunt. We got to give the X there. No, we only got one one army builder, and you've got two. So,
Oh yeah, Shipwreck is a good call though.
Shipwreck
Next
is
behind Hawk, he's probably next for iconic and not represented yet.
I mean, after Stalker, I'd give it to him.
Yeah, close, debatable.
I just didn't put Grunt or Footloose just because at the end of the day, they're just regular infantry. And, Duke kind of fits that role.
I could see Grunt because, again, Grunt, like my argument for Flash before, Grunt was so important for setting up the early marketing for this line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe he didn't do a whole lot on the page. Maybe he didn't do a whole lot on the screen. But Grunt was exceptionally sellable because you saw him all over the line, all over the toy aisle, all over the stationery aisle. It was always grunt on that early merchandise, and somehow it all flew off the shelves. So Grunt, can't underestimate the importance of Grunt to G.I. Joe.
I think I agree with both of you. Like, Grunt's really important because he was the de facto Joe early on, but yeah. I would not miss him if he was gone. If he wasn't in a classified line. Like, I don't need him in a classified line. Like I needed him in the retro line. Retro Grunt, I'm all over retro Grunt. But classified, I don't need it.
If you're gonna make Stalker with this awesome of an assemblage, then you put a different head on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In much the same way that C.S. Sherman's Joe Greenshirt would be fun to have with like an alternate Grunt head and maybe some alternate secondaries. There would be a great troop builder option there.
If you included enough bits, that's a customizer's dream, right? They're buying everyone they can find. Love Low Light. And I love Wild Weasel. Always have. Great character, great design. But a designated pilot without his plane,
It's tough.
And I'm a big Ace fan. Ace is in my top 5. I loved Ace as a character and as a figure. Even the astronaut Ace, I was down as a kid. Loved him. But at classified, they're never going to
make a battle copter for Ace.
No, and they're never going to make a jet for him. So I love Ace, but I don't need him. And I love Wild Weasel, and I don't need him.
Night Adder is a wild card there.
Dig him though.
Cool concept. Loved him because I like new characters and a badass Cobra security guy, a named guy, not a troop builder with a mean dog. Oh yeah, so good.
And the ability to change the color of his tattoos.
That's even better. Something Cody Rhodes wishes he could do. See what I did there?
I think he would change it to invisible if he had any
flesh colored. Yeah. It's like my wife once said, why don't you get a tattoo of Hugh Jackman's face on your face? That cuts a little close to the bone, but okay.
Oh goodness. That's a little harsh for Mrs. Weber.
I know, right? But I get her to X-Men movies at least, right?
I guess.
Ooh.
Matt Rubin's got Mainframe, Scrap Iron, Cobra Eel, Hawk, and Dusty. Good pick on Dusty there. He's certainly up there as far as recognizable.
Is there any difference for cartoon version Hawk versus what we're talking about?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Brighter colors.
Because eventually in the comic book, when Hawk in his bomber jacket came out on the toy shelves, he was wearing a bomber jacket in the comics too. So I don't know.
Still stubbornly blonde in the comics though.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Up until 93.
Yeah. Has anybody ever asked Kurt Bazzigan if they did that on purpose or if that was a slip or?
I think that was the feedback from Sunbow.
Okay.
I think that was they wanted to introduce Hawk and they were like, well, he looks too much like Duke.
Yeah.
So can you change his hair? And they're like, well, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It would be a dumb hill to die on. So
yeah, I see it. I love Matt's less other than Mainframe. Not feeling the computer guy.
Yeah, I understand how important he is. I've just never been a huge fan.
Yeah, and I like the character. I like that he's a Marine, and obviously computer tech guys are more important in modern warfare than ever. But man, I don't need to buy that. I don't have to have him on my show.
Viper Scout goes Skid Mark,
No,
Colonel Courage, Cesspool, and Monstro Viper.
no. That's one guy. Back
Seriously,
that up.
Shockwave.
Yeah. That was
No,
a
no.
Cesspool Monstro Viper. They've merged into
Cesspool
one.
Monstro Viper. He'd be amazing.
So Shockwave, Lifeline, Wetsuit, Zorana, Night Viper. That's a strong list. Night Viper hadn't gotten a lot of love today.
Don't need Zorana. Not unless you're doing more. That opens the Dreadnought problem.
Yeah.
I think Zorana's on the list. You've got Zartan, and she's useful enough on her own that if you've got Zartan, I don't need like Zorana's the only other one that can get away from that. I think
Maybe.
I'm good with Zorana.
You're still gonna get most of the vocal fan base, which is a sliver of the overall fan base. Going, where's my Xandar? You can't not give me Xandar. What are you doing? And really, if you rank them, where's Xandar rank among Cobras?
I mean, Xandar's at the bottom of my list at Dreadnoks, let alone Cobras.
Yeah.
Not a high ranked higher.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. That's Xandar's bit, right? Nobody remembers him. Yep.
Well, we remember
For a reason.
Yeah. You
we
know
remember him. He's just lame.
He's a redhead trying to keep him down.
Lame. Looking down.
I like Shockwave. Lifeline's good too.
Yeah, Lifeline. You talk about somebody looking different.
Yeah.
He would certainly jump off the shelf at you. I mean, same way he did in 1986.
Look at Torpedo 83, man.
If we got Lifeline instead of Doc, I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, it works either way, but that's something when we built lines, we did look at racial diversity and gender diversity within it. And so if you weren't doing a stalker, maybe you'd want to do Doc over Lifeline. And then there's value there. I don't say value. I just think it's important because Joe has always been a very diverse toy line. And I think you want to make sure that's represented on the shelf.
Daniel Rodriguez wants to fight the honcho. Zanzibar with air skiff over Serpentor with chariot all day.
That's fine.
Cool. I like Zanzibar. I think he's a good
Zanzibar's great, but you can't do Zanzibar without making like 7 other Dreadnoks.
Yeah.
He's just a pirate.
Torpedo
Pirate in a
83.
biker gang.
Torpedo 83 wants Interrogator, baby. My all-time favorite Cobra. Apparently, just mine and his.
I can't understand the mentality of wanting a character who's already been released twice when there's so many characters that haven't been done at all. I don't know who we're in reference to.
Maybe Storm Shadow, the Amazon one, then the Snake Eyes movie one.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Dude, it's 84 Storm Shadow.
Yeah, they made version, even though the G.I. Joe version,
there.
Really good fig. But they made version 2 and version, I guess, 3 of all time. And they didn't make version 1. Like,
Matthew Comstock, I want a butt with a butt shaped tattoo right on my butt.
That's Beavis and Butthead right there. Classic.
Buttception.
There we go. Here's Bill's list: Spirit, Alpine, Crimson Guard, Serpentor, and Lifeline.
Alpine would be good with all that gear.
Yeah, solid list.
Yeah.
Especially to make the gear actually work. Like
Spirit
with a below.
Right.
With freedom too, so that would be pretty awesome.
Here's the question on Spirit, though, right? You would seriously have to update that fig.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there would be nothing wrong with that, with taking the character of Spirit and giving it a more modern and less stereotypical representation. Would be a great figure, but it wouldn't look like classic Spirit, and they can't call him just Spirit anymore. So you're departing pretty far away from what most, let's face it, adult collectors, which is what's fueling this line, remember as Spirit. So
I think if you gave Spirit a decent haircut, I think it would be all right.
In the old blue with the
look, he doesn't necessarily need to have the tassels, but if you gave him the blue shirt with the tan pants and the high boots and maybe some Native American accoutrements, that gun has to go. That arrow gun is terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible in 1984. Whatever. But if you gave him freedom and a decent, got rid of the pigtails, I think.
Yeah. And the loincloth.
Yeah. Maybe integrate some of the red from that loincloth into the pants on like the sides. like kind of
Yeah.
a way that Scarlet has her red on her
Color
pants.
detail to make those red
Yeah.
details.
Yeah, there's a way you could hybridize it, I guess. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with having some Native American accents, right, on it. Like, yeah, no problem. But you would have to change some significant parts of it.
And
Maybe
So
pull more from the Devil's Due look that we got in the comic packs.
yeah.
there's a thought too.
And I was such a sucker for the Hearts and Minds comic that Max Brooks did, and the way they modernized the concept of Spirit the Tracker, that it wasn't mysticism, that it wasn't ear to the ground, Tonto-esque Kimosabi, I hear 5 horses coming. It was the fact that he was incredibly OCD, and he took in so much information, and they showed it so well of how him just walking down the street was a harrowing experience for him, because he took in so much information at once, and that made him like almost a supernaturally talented tracker. Like, that's cool, right? And it gets away from any kind of stereotypical Native American mysticism that when you paint with a broad brush like that, you get in trouble almost right away. So
Yeah. I mean, in fairness to the various places we've seen Spirit, like when Larry wrote him in the comic, and he had a pretty pronounced role for a while, that sort of thing didn't, like, he had a job to do that he did legitimately, and then if he had some parable or something to associate with it, he would, but there was no supernatural element to him doing his job there. On the cartoon, he really didn't do that job at all. Like, he was the tracker, but he was the guy, he was the infantry guy with the eagle is all he was on the cartoon.
and he was the dude who fought Storm Shadow a couple times, right?
Storm Shadow, yeah.
He fought him more than Snake Eyes did.
Yeah. Well, Snake Eyes fought him in the opening sequence of Revenge of Cobra when he kicked him from the glider. That was the only time. But anyways, Torpedo 83, Cover Girl, Airborne, Hawk, Interrogator, and Viper with removable helmet. Blind box the head as a generic Cobra or Mercer. I like a lot of that idea, except for the Mercer part.
Everything but that last word, huh?
Yeah. I would go with why not Flint dressed as a Cobra officer then?
This is one of the only beefs I had with Phil's line, because he's using some of the same guys here. Cover Girl and Hawk in the same line.
2 bomber jackets.
Yeah, like I think it minimizes
Like
the coolness of both, because they're both great. But and again, if this is the last line, okay, you don't have any choice. You either do it or you don't. But if you had more than one, I would separate those two. And I think, yeah, I think you want to get female figures out there, but Cover Girl is a little bit to me like Ace or Wild Weasel. I need her tank, right?
Right.
I guess
I want another Joe female, but I mean, if we're going off original looks, Jinx is, I think, just too boring.
Yeah, I feel you. And I guess if you spun her less as tank driver and more as grease monkey, essentially, as full on mechanic, which I think is where they probably should have gone with her a little bit more. The idea of well, just former runway model, right? Who has become the best mechanic for the top military unit in the world. I love the idea that the vamp is broken and Clutch has to bite his tongue and bring it to Cover Girl if he ever wants it to roll again, right? I love the idea of, especially back then, because Joe was more progressive than a lot of other properties. The idea that the guys have got to pay homage, basically, to this little gorgeous, because she is a former model, this gorgeous little girl who's the only one keeping all these weapons of war running. I think that's cool.
Well, if we want to change it up, we could give her the Sunbow miniseries colors where she's all in green with blonde.
Yeah.
And then you can make like a Transformers Generation Selects thing on Hasbro Pulse exclusive that's in their toy colors.
Yeah, you can make it work either way. I would love the idea of doing a face that looks pretty because she's Cover Girl, and then doing one that's just dirty and grease marks and hair all messed up, and it's like the one who comes out on the rolling thing from under the tank. Like, ooh.
So real quick, I want to get a couple more of these in before we wind up for the night. Alistair Keffer, Grunt, Lightfoot, Zorana, Night Viper, Mutton Junkyard. Mutton Junkyard is one that I would be all about, but man, that would get expensive. That's a deluxe figure right there. Because if you're going to do timber full articulation, you got to do Junkyard that way too. Lightfoot, I'd go Tripwire before Lightfoot, but I'm an old school.
Ain't nobody buying Lightfoot.
Yeah.
You got weird boots.
Weird boots? What about the helmet?
You got weird everything. It's just, at least you can justify the helmet as having tech. Why does his boots have blocks on the side?
Lightfoot's the guy, even though he's EOD, Lightfoot's the guy they're not telling what time the chopper takes off, right? He's running out after the Tomahawk, helmet in hand, going, hey, guys.
Hey. Matthew Comstock, Shipwreck, Scrap Iron, Night Viper, Stalker, Recondo.
Ooh.
Solid
Hold on, my
Recondo.
phone's ringing. It's Joe Colton. She hates Recondo. Hates him.
She does. I don't think that has anything to do with
The figure.
actual G.I. Joe. So
No, but Recondo would sell. He's really, really popular. Only because of the hat.
and
The good hat.
that's one fabulous mustache.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots about him that's cool. But if they'd made him with just a helmet or a flat cowboy hat, wouldn't be half as popular, right? It's one of the most iconic looks, at least, of the first 3-4 years. That folded up hat.
So let's start bringing it into the station here, and let's move into what we got in. So Biff McHonky Donk, you're our guest today. What'd you get in the last couple weeks?
Well, I got in something that actually kind of confused me. I saw this buy it now on eBay for what I thought was just a Photon Toys R Us ad. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Some art that hasn't really been seen before, and the holster on the belt there makes it look like it was probably a prototype. But then when I got it in, you can see how it's reflecting my light here. This thing it's plastic.
Nice.
And it is layered.
So it's some kind of a light up display.
That's cool.
No, that's CMYK. This is like used in the actual making of the ad.
Oh, nice.
Very
It was
cool.
like, huh? What did I order here? This is like a $20 buy it now. Like, I was really thinking I was just getting a newspaper speech and not something that's actually, a print negative sort of thing.
Frame.
That is cool.
Yeah. And then I was at a Pasadena G.I. Joe toy show on Sunday, and I got in this hat.
That is a
Digging
Rattler
that.
logo on there.
Yeah. They did a nice flyover Thursday night, by the way.
Get that back up there, Phil.
Yeah, that's nice.
Very cool. Very cool.
What size is that hat?
It is a Velcro adjustable.
Ah, so it fits everybody.
Yes, and it won't pop apart after a year.
Right.
Except for me, because I'd have to leave those flaps completely open
Right.
to get on my
But
jacket.
it'll still fit. Gravity.
And it'll sit there. My little Rattler yarmulke. But what else you got, Phil?
That's all I have on hand. Honestly, it's been a light couple of weeks.
You be that way then. Honcho Mark Weber.
Well, I kind of thought I would hit cleanup because I cleaned up this
I got
week.
nothing. So you are
Yeah.
hitting.
Oh, very nice. So I got a couple things. We're getting back, I promise you, to Lazy Bastard Customs because I've been picking up pieces for a couple of projects I've been wanting to do. But before we get to that, never had this because it's Street Fighter, and I didn't collect. Street Fighter was like, come on, that's not really Joe. But some of the vehicles aren't terrible.
Sonic Boom Tank is awesome. I had that as a kid. I loved it.
Never had this. And the missiles are coming, as well as, come on, dude, you're missing a wheel down there and you didn't say it, but whatever. Other than the yellow being a little too yellow and the driver being just bullet bait.
It's better colors than the Paralyzer.
Yeah, I'm
Setting a
kind
low
of,
bar.
I'm down with this. Now I think I'm going to scrape the Street Fighter stuff off and make it a little more GI Joe. But yeah, I'm down with that. So never had it ever. Happy with the Sonic Boom Tank. Working on a project here, but I have this, but I got this for pretty cheap, and it's going to help me with something else I'm working on. So I got a pretty good Wolverine, most of the missiles. What was curious to me is it arrived like this. Take a good look at the cannons, right? And how he worked it. Come on now. That's disrespectful. Okay.
Get fixed, man.
And how he worked it, because the way it's pictured it on the box and the way I always had it was like this, right?
Sure.
With the cool part of this facing forward. And it also moved the missiles back a little bit more from CoverGirl's hair, right? Because I always thought that, even as a kid, I thought that design was a little sketchy. And if you remember the CoverGirl figure, that hair was kind of beehive weaved. And I figured there was a lot of product in there.
It was the early 80s. There was a lot of Aquanet going on, yeah.
Yeah. But if you look at what this guy did as a kid, look at how he put the sticker on. He was obviously vested that this was the right way to have, and it doesn't look awful, but I think we all know that's wrong.
Not everybody read the instructions as a kid.
No.
Well, I mean, until like 3 years ago, I had Voltar's backpack wrong. I thought that was an antenna. I didn't know that was
most people did.
I didn't know that was a vulture perch. So I know hey man, what can I say?
You can't see it in the card art, and I don't think they actually have an instruction on the card itself. So I think that's excusable.
Yeah. So I'm coming clean about it. But anyway, to be continued. This Wolverine will make an appearance at another point. The other ones are figures, and they're almost all tied. But the first one is not. It's a piece of a figure, and you two are going to race to identify it. Are you ready?
Sure.
Whose legs are these?
Sky Striker.
Yeah.
Oh, big win right there. So it's Wild Weasel's legs repainted as Sky Striker.
Yeah.
And they were available for buy it now at like $10-12. Something like that. And I'm like, if I can make a lazy bastard custom that uses a piece of a pretty rare and expensive figure, like that's instant street cred. So look for these bad boys at some point coming to you. But the other guys, the guys who are involved in this overall project that I'm doing, this beautiful Thunder. See the helmet and the monocular and the just devastated crotch, which I did undoing the figure. Luckily I didn't. I don't. That's the one piece I think I don't need out of this guy. So that's on me, not on the guy who sold him. But the other three that we're using are old school, and these are going to make a couple things that are going to be awesome. So we got a good looking straight arm breaker.
Okay.
A little too close to the camera there. And then the original Desert Troops.
Nice.
And I don't know if it'll do it justice. This clutch is fantastic. Like, just I'll have to check my old one to make sure this guy isn't better, because he's big time, and none of these were that expensive. So if you were a fan of Lazy Bastard Custom Theater, and even if you weren't, too bad, get ready.
The segment we've been talking about, bring it back for a year. We're finally getting it going.
Daddy's got some groceries, so I can cook dinner. So it's going to be a good
to
job.
make a Desert Breaker, and I never get around to it.
That might be a spoiler, but only part of it. But the one thing I got to do, and I haven't had to do this with an old figure before, the screw on the back of this grunt is totally stripped.
Ooh.
So it's going to be, tonight we're going to try the glue on the screwdriver head, and we'll go for that, because I've never done the drill to screw out thing, and I know it's incredibly dangerous. So we'll see.
Gotta have try putting Coke in it and see if that eats away at the screwdriver.
Yeah, and it's not rusted or anything. I know Coke can help with rust, but this is This is totally stripped. Like I can't get it to move at all. I tried the rubber band on top of the screwdriver thing, and I'm not getting anywhere. So we'll see.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Vaya con Dios.
It wasn't that expensive for a pretty good. It's funny that you would think that glider grunt would be a little more expensive, but I guess because everybody broke their gliders so often, they bought a lot more. So, like Viper, the grunt is like a $20 figure, right? And the Viper Pilot, because that symbol wore off for everybody, is like $280. Like, what are you doing?
It's pretty ridiculous,
man. So anyway, I got a lot in this week. For me, that's a lot.
Back in the day, back in 1996, when I first started collecting again, the second purchase I made, the first one I went to eBay and I got a Slugger with Thunder. We never had that growing up. My second purchase after restarting the collection was 2 Hiss drivers and 2 Viper Pilots from a guy who sent me a physical paper catalog. $5 a piece.
That's solid.
And this was big money back then, right?
Well, it was one of those where I was in college, and so I was throwing over every piece of furniture in the apartment, trying to get to that $20. Like,
can you use your meal plan points?
Yeah,
right.
Wow. That couch probably still lopsided anyway.
I have my original Viper Pilot, but he only has a whisper of silver on his chest. And once that bit goes, he won't be a Viper Pilot ever again, right? Nobody will believe it.
Well, the two that I have still very good.
That's solid.
One of them is fantastic, and the other one has a little bit of a smudge on the edge. But yeah.
Even his tank drivers are hard to find with a good logo.
Good, so. And those 2 are both real good too. But of course, I've got probably 12 classic Hiss tanks, so they all generally have good looking drivers in them. So yeah. Anyways, I don't know which 2 those are, but those Viper Pilots, I've never found them again for anything affordable. I knew even then that even in '96 that was an expensive figure, that this guy just didn't know what he had.
Right.
And so, anyhow,
there you go.
Let's I got nothing in, like I said. So that moves us into shout outs. Biff McHonky Dog, tell us where we can find Articulated Points.
Oh yeah.
You can find it on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and Instagram. And most places it's just Articulated Points as the username. With Twitter, it's Articulated PTS, because apparently they can't have 3 more letters. And you can also find us tomorrow on Operation Armor. We'll be in the Vamp for the Memories and Hiss Tanks for the Memories segments with me and Patrick, and also Chris McLeod.
All right.
It'll be fully articulated, I think we're calling it.
Fully articulated. Nice. Who else we shouting out to, Phil?
My partner in crime, Patrick Stewart, not Picard. He's my co-host on Articulated Points, and he's a guy I always turn to for part of the whole brain trust thing. We got to figure out if we got a mystery in a toy line, we're going to solve it together.
Patrick is a good guy to have on your side for mysteries and toy lines. One of the best I can think of.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Mark Weber.
Yeah.
Out
nice and simple. Let's give a shout out to my mom, because she's visiting and she's like nearby, so maybe I get extra points for that. But I would ask Mom if I could borrow the family room for a weekend, and usually it was a yes, and then I would set up the whole room as the war, right? Like the Joes were big, and early on up through I think the 4th year of it, maybe the start of the 5th, I shared the collection with another kid, in the neighborhood. So we had 2 Christmas worth of presents, right? We had 2 wallets worth buying. So we had a significant collection, and we would just trade the whole thing back and forth every couple weeks. And the parents never thought it would work, that there would be a giant blow up, but it worked fine until the end, when he was older than me, and he, rather than pay me for his paper out I did for a month, he just said, "Why don't you keep the Joes?" Bing. So to my mom, affectionately Grandma Nola, to the kids who let me completely hijack the family room a couple weekends a year to set up the war and do it shot by shot. Pooh, pew.
It's a turn-based combat.
Basically, right? Like I did it like rotisserie baseball, but it made the war itself lasted a couple hours. And really, all I've been doing the rest of my life is amassing a collection so I can do that again someday. So yeah, to my mom, Nola Weber, thanks for putting up with my lifelong GI Joe collection.
Who else we got, Mark Weber?
That's it, right? Like just in general, we always shout out to the first responders and the docs and the nurses out there, but we should also give it up to the teachers as they're getting ready for another school year to start. My kids are starting to get ready for it, and we're still in a pandemic, and it's nothing's certain right now. So teachers already a hard job even without COVID. So my mom and dad are both teachers. So let's give it up to the teachers out there. Soon to be taking your kids off your hands 5 days a week.
Yeah, Rack Time Rob's had day number 2 today.
There you go.
I texted him. I said, I'm going to the grocery store. And he was like, get bourbon. So,
which one? All of it.
Right. And Matt Rubin, good tag by Matt Rubin here. Shout out to the mental health professionals as well. Absolutely.
Did you come back with actually diet vanilla 0 calorie bourbon? Something
0 bourbon. Yes. No, I did not buy bourbon. It was actually getting busy. So I grabbed the essentials and ran.
Bourbon isn't as essential.
It was not close to the front of the store. Milk, bread, Oreos.
When you ran, did you actually pay for these items?
I had a cart, so I just kind of hopped on the back and pushed with my one good leg.
To freedom.
I think you're onto something, though. They need to have impulse buy bourbon displays right by the register, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, they have the candy for the kids. It's the same concept.
Your magazines, your beef jerky, your candy, your booze.
Some of the grocery stores do have the booze counter right there by checkout. Walmart,
I would put it right there next to the Jennifer Aniston magazine.
Right?
Yeah.
Actually, the grocery store by my house has all the expensive stuff right after the checkout line. So it's you check out, there's the walkway, and then there's the cabinets full of the expensive booze.
Oh man, so you have buyer's regret. Like, man, I shouldn't have got eggs.
And shout out to the retail folks dealing with folks who don't wear their masks. So yeah, Alistair brings up a good point. We're back in a bad spot with this whole pandemic thing. We've been a little lax for a little too long. If regardless of your vaccination status, first off, get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Second off, wear your mask in public. Do your best to maintain social distancing. There's a lot of folks having a bad time right now. And we're not just talking victims. We're talking health professionals. We're talking other folks in hospitals who have other types of medical procedures going on that can't have that happen because there's too many resources being dedicated to folks who won't get a shot. So please, if you're not vaccinated, go get yourself vaccinated. If you are vaccinated, please, you're the more sensible folks to begin with. Please get your masks on in public, and let's really get this thing down this time, because we're heading towards some really not good situations this fall with this virus. Give a shout out to Rack Time Rob, the unsung hero and fourth man of the What's on Joe Mind team. Give a shout out to Joe Colton and her
the unsung third member,
right? The often absent third member of our team.
It's about 4 hours that way.
Yeah, having a great time in Las Vegas, living long and prospering at Star Trek, whatever it's called. I don't know, some Star Trek show. She'll talk about it next week, whatever. Give a shout out to our folks at Kokomo Toys for sponsoring our program. Still, despite the fact that we do nothing positive for them whatsoever,
we sing for them,
except sing their theme song. Kokomo
Toys. Ooh, I stuck the landing.
Want to give a shout out to the folks watching along with us on the live stream, both on YouTube and on Facebook. Thank you so much. If you would be so kind, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us some kind of a reaction if you're on Facebook. if you want to play along with the continue to play along with the fantasy booking, leave a comment here. Leave a comment for us on Facebook. Give us your 5. We got the rules for you at the beginning of the segment. Where it's of course one name Joe, at least one name Cobra, only one army builder, 5 figures. Get your list up there, and we'll do our best to react to those and all that other good stuff. So for my guest host Phil Donnelly, for my co-host Mark Weber, I'm Mike Irizarry. Thank you for tuning in for another edition of the What's on Joe Mind Team Stream. We will catch you again next Friday at 9 p.m., both on YouTube and on Facebook. We love you. Be good to one another. Be safe. Get vaccinated. Have a great week.
Put your mask on.